the thread itself can be adjusted. Okay? So inside, there is a head, but this thing has a flat spot. So it has a neck where you can come in and actually rotate it. Okay? So if you first you have to loosen the gem nut. So the procedure, first loosen the gem nut. Most likely it's already loose. Why do you think your door can drop down? You have to raise it up, right? But the reason it dropped is because your gem nut is already loose. And then you adjust the main thread, the main threaded rod. You rotate it so it lifts this up, right? You do a clockwise rotation, and as a result, this thing lifts. Okay? And then third, you tighten the gem nut. So the gem nut actually press the threaded bolt into the bracket. So it's now locked. So the purpose of a gem nut, and this is the reason it's thin, is to tighten itself against something else. So the main thread does not rotate anymore. So if you only adjust the height of your door and it lifts up, but you don't jam it with the gem nut, over time you slide left and right, things moving, things rotating, it drops again. Okay? And so in order to stay on the height that you want, then you have to jam it with this gem nut. So that's kind of a long explanation for the gem nut, but that's what it is. Nylon insert gem lock. So again, you put the nylon here. It's tight. It's more difficult to rotate, intentionally so, because they put a plastic piece. Wing nut, you can just use your fingers, no tools. Cap nut is just something aesthetic because the threaded rod usually sticks out, and if it's on the outside of your product, you want it capped. Something similar like a cap nut. Now, the different heads. This one is a countersunk. So if you use this kind of head, then your part A, where the bolt hole comes, has to be cut with a countersunk. So if you want to use that one, so part A, the one that meets the head, and here's part B, right? So you have to cut like that. The purpose is for your bolt to sit in like that. Okay? So because the purpose of this flat is for your bolt head to be sink inside so the surface is flush. Maybe you want to put a sticker, anything aesthetics here, right? So the purpose is to get the bolt head into the material. But in order to do that, you have to have this cut 45 degrees. And it has to be cut deep enough for the head of the bolt to sink in. Okay? That's why it's called a countersunk. Same thing here, but it's rounded top. This is a flat top. A fan head, just rounded head, more aesthetics than a hex. Okay, so different ones. This one is a hex, but with a built-in washer. So you don't have to have a separate washer. Kind of nice. This one you can have multiple tools. You can have a hex socket. You can have a slot socket. This is using the ConGL that I said, right? Using a hex key. As a hex key, but not a head. Okay, so the different head style. When you talk about smaller screws, then you get into these drive types. Okay, these are not bolts; these are tiny, tiny screws. We're talking about electronics. If you ever open, who here have opened your cell phone to change the battery, change the screen, maybe? Yeah, your laptops. Now, smaller screws then have these kind of drive types. So you have Phillips, not that common, but it's just a different kind. It's straight instead of Phillips is kind of countersunk like that. And so it usually often comes out slack. Yeah. When you tighten it with too much torque, it slips out from the hole. So these three looks very similar. Okay. But you know this is the old school type, not that common now. This you see a lot more common. So the nice thing about this is you can do two tools. I think your electrical circuit breaker is usually like this. So you can use a Phillips head. We usually call it plus, right? Omega plus. And then you can use the flat head also. Combo. Now, these are a bit special. And you see this in tiny, tiny screws. We're talking like M2 or 2mm screws or even 1mm screws. What's special about them is they are resistant to coming out. Because if you see a Phillips head, if you cut through a Phillips head, it is actually, so if this is a screw, okay, say that kind of screw. The Phillips head is actually like this. You understand what I'm trying to say? The cut is actually at an angle. So as a result, when you open it, when you tighten it and tighten it with a lot of torque, your screwdriver will pop out. And this head will be damaged. It will be rounded. So to manage that, you use heads that are straight cut. So these hex socket, square socket, and Torx, they cut into it straight. And so when your tool come in, like this. And so because this is straight, it does not push you out from the socket. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah? So these three things is special in that way. It doesn't come out. You have a question? Yeah.
Why do they make a Phillips that's straight cut instead of snap?
That's what the these things are more straight. They try to do it, but it's a good question. I mean, tradition, like that's how we've been doing it, and that's the cheapest screws out there. These are newer, and when they say newer, we're talking about 10, 20 years. This goes back like 50 years, right? So it's just tradition. If you deal with German cars, they do this a lot. Torx. I hate it because you don't use the common tools, but it is better. It is better. And you see you have a lot of surface to bite on. So yeah, more expensive fasteners. Just tradition. That's how we've been doing it for decades. So we'll just use that. Okay. Uh, the definitions of length for fasteners is different if you have a head sticking out or the head is in. So under some fasteners, this is the length. The bolt with a head like this is the length. Okay, now let's talk about the how they are defined. This is an inch thread. I think I have a different slide for this. Hold on. Okay, we'll get to the sizes. But before that, coatings. We have coatings on bolts to do several things. First, you have appearance, so it doesn't rust, and corrosion. And corrosion and appearance kind of go hand in hand, right? I mean, a rusted bolt just looks ugly. Friction. It also reduces friction. So this coating helps with the friction too. And if you have less friction, you have less preload scatter. And we'll talk about preload a little bit later. So you have different coatings here. Hot dip, galvanized, stainless steel. Okay, brass, bronze, chrome, nickel plated. Here are the different bolt grades for inch bolts or US units. You have grade 2, grade 5, grade 8 is marked like this. Ever seen this on the bolt head? Maybe. And these are your metric bolt heads. There is a marking class 8.8, 10.9, and 12.9. A class 8.8 has a similar strength as a grade 5 inch bolt or SAE bolts. Okay, so these are similar grades, similar strength. These are higher strength. Okay, so as you go to the right, it is a higher strength bolt. Now, if you look at a bolt, you got multiple threads engaged, right? But actually, the load is not carried on the threads equally. So, these are the load percentage of each thread. So if you look, 34%, 23%, 16%. What's that total? 60, so 70 something, right? So 73% of the load is actually carried by the first 3 threads. So if these are multiple threads engaged here, the first 3 threads that is engaged is carrying 75% of the load. And so if you ever over torque a bolt and then you strip the thread, you'll notice that the thread that is stripped is not the bottom. It's actually the one on the top. Because the top 3 threads carries the majority of the load. So that's the first consequence. The second one is that in a typical nut, you only see about 3 threads, 3 full threads. Why? Well, because 3 is enough. Okay? So the minimum amount of thread you need is about 3 threads. And that does the job pretty well. Okay? So you get external thread, internal thread. I will not go into the details. I think you will learn this in APNI. These are the tools. This is the tap. You know, you tap it. This is a die. So first you drill, and then you tap to create the female thread. The way you check a thread is using what is called a thread gauge. You want to check the dimension of the thread. And the thread gauge, basically you fit the thread gauge into the threads and see which one matches. Okay? So this thread gauge is actually, it's just a bunch of thread marks, thread cuts. So it's like that, and then you try to match it with the so you match them and see which one matches. I'll bring you some samples tomorrow or the next time I remember. This is how you define a thread. The nominal size is the major diameter. So you have a bolt, right? You have these threads. The major diameter is this. So on the outside of the thread, because you have the inside, right? The cut. So this is called the minor diameter. This is the major diameter. Okay? So the minor diameter is the root. The major diameter is on the crest, which is the top of the mountain. The minor diameter you measure at the bottom of the mountain. The pitch is the distance between these two things, these two crests. So this is called the pitch. So the smaller the pitch, the finer the thread. Okay? Lebih halus, right? It's fine. Obviously, a smaller screw will have a smaller pitch. It's just natural. So that's the pitch. For the same major diameter, you can have coarse or fine. So this is a coarse thread. So an M6, a 6 millimeter screw, 6 millimeters, will have 1 millimeter pitch for coarse thread, and the here M8. Let's look at M8. So an 8 millimeter screw or bolt have a 1.25 millimeter pitch for the coarse, but for the fine, an 8 millimeter screw or bolt will have a pitch of 1 or 0.75. So it's tighter together. Same major diameter. So same major diameter, but one is finer, the other one is coarse. Okay, so coarse is like they space apart. This is the fine one. So you actually have two types of thread specification. One is an inch style or an inch unit, and then this is the metric unit. So with an inch unit, the writing is different. Here we deal mostly with metric, but I think you also need to know an inch bolt, how it's specified. Okay, a metric bolt is specified M6-1. Okay, this is the thread pitch. This is the major diameter. An inch, quarter inch, 20. Now, what is this? This 20. Now, 20 is the number of thread per inch. It's different. So a metric bolt So this is an image of the threads, right? Metric thread pitches. It is the distance between the two mountains. So a metric pitch is defined like this. So if it's 1 millimeter, then it's 1.0 millimeter distance from the two peaks of the mountain. But a US bolt, an inch bolt, is specified in terms of thread per inch. So therefore, in 1 inch, how many threads are there? So a 20 PPI means that if you take a bolt like that, and you measure in 1 inch, you have 20 threads. So which one will be a finer thread between the 20 and 24? You can see it. The bigger the number, the finer it is. Lebih halus, right? Because there are more threads per inch. But in a metric thread, the bigger the number, the coarser, or put a different way, the finer thread has a smaller number because it is measuring the pitch, not the number of thread in 1 inch or in a specified length. Got that?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the opposite and it's written differently. So the letter M signifies that it's a metric thread. 6 is the major diameter and 1 is the pitch. An inch bolt, quarter inch is the major diameter and 20 is the number of thread per inch. Okay? So a metric bolt is like this, M12, 1.75. This is the pitch. I mean, you don't have to remember the rest. Okay? This is the majority, the thread specification. A US bolt for AMSI is half inch, 20 is thread per inch. And you cannot find random thread specifications, right? So a 6 millimeter bolt is most commonly 1 millimeter pitch. So you cannot say, I want a 0.9, okay? Doesn't exist. They make this in mass production, so you got some standard ones. Now, the smaller bolts does not come in fine pitches, only the bigger ones. So starting from 8 millimeter, you will have a fine thread version of the bolt. Okay? All right, we'll get into the calculation for the strength of the bolt. Let me just summarize between coarse and fine. There are different strengths and weaknesses. The coarse thread is the most common. So in most cases, you'll be using coarse thread. Greater stripping strength, better fatigue resistance, less tendency to cross-thread. Cross-threading means when you insert a bolt at an angle, and then you tighten it wrong, and then you damage everything. I've done that. So less tendency to cross-thread. With fine pitch, you can cross-thread more often. Assemble quickly, tap bearing to brittle materials. So these are mainly the strength. Fine threads sometimes are used. They are stronger, higher torsional and transverse shear strength, better in thin wall members. So this is the main reason why you use fine threads, is because when your plate is thin, you don't have room for many thread, right? If your plate is thin, and so that's why you use fine thread. So you can fit at least 2 to 3 full circles in specified thickness. It is mainly used for adjustment. Sometimes you use these bolts for adjusting a distance. like the tensioner in a belt situation. Okay, so that's probably the reason you will use fine thread. All right, enough talking from me. We'll do more calculation after the break and then watch some videos also. Go ahead and take like 15 minutes.
Berarti bapaknya. Udah kan, udah males lu malah. Kalau gitu enggak. Kami doa ayo. Kalau ngajak makan kok kita makan. Solar daripada kali.
Berapa liter?
Kemarin kita isi 70.
Belum rusak nih. Belum rusak. Suaranya kayak rusak gitu.
Enggak, itu suara Ruis itu. Ada es krim kentang. Oh, bapak.
Ibu pengen bapak tapi pengen jagung. Jagung dulu kok. Gila lu.
Roti, sari roti gitu.
Ada roti. Tapi di bawah dulu. Tadi cuma salsa, daging, coklat. No. You put in the milk first, it will overflow when you cereal. So it's the the salt shaker, not the salt. Nah, itu salt shaker, nggak boleh. Not the best. It's great. Yeah, Joe, you back and back and Malahnya belum sembuh, dia bisa
Oke ya.
Iya, mahal juga ya.
Membantu Niko. Itu cereal cup 12. Kan udah include susu sama sendok.
Kalau gua kamu sukses sama sendok,
Nah, lu buka lo ambil ininya cereal.
Ya,
Ntar lagi bisa. Ngatur mulu.
Apa sih? Apa cepet
Dia tuh bisa tek gitu tek hari rapi. Boleh lah, bisa lah.
Enggak, lu sama Ali. Lu nggak nonton? Enggak. Klaus? Yang kalian mau nonton jatuh?
Iya, nonton itu.
Tabrak kalian nonton? Timberlake.
Terus setiap ada apa-apa gue
Tapi kan kiranya belum banyak.
oke deh. Gue udah maksudnya sampai sebulan gitu. Apa?
Okay, is everybody back? Let me play a couple of videos. So this is the animation that I was trying to show. so when you tighten a nut and a bolt, well, in this case, you have two nuts and one threaded rod, right? So when you tighten it, you can think of the bolt actually as a spring. You tighten it. If you tighten these two, the bolt actually lengthens. Okay? The bolt actually lengthens and acts like a spring. This results in a clamping force. Okay? Let's look at it again. So the gap is obviously exaggerated. So when you tighten it, the bolt actually stretches along this elastic region. If it goes beyond the yield, then you damage the bolt. So we don't want to do that, right? This is deformation, permanent deformation. Okay, does that give a good picture of? Yeah. So again, the point of an assembly, the point of a bolted assembly is to close this gap and to not let it separate, right? If this is a pipe, then having a separation means leaking. So, the point is to assemble those. Now, here is a more detailed animation about the clamping and the stretching. So consider two plates that is being clamped with these fasteners, with a bolt and nut assembly. So this is, you get rid of the rest. You just focus on the sleeve here, right? Notice there is some gap between the threads, right? There is some gap. As you tighten it, the gap will be taken up, okay? And as you tighten this, you are actually pulling on the bolt. This is the flow of force. You see that the thread, the first three threads takes up the majority of the load. That's why you don't need that, like 10 threads and gauge, right? You only need 5, 6, maybe. Okay, as you tighten it, the bolt actually lengthens. So think of it like a spring. You're clamping it with a spring. Now the green one is the elongation of the bolt. The plate, actually, the two part that you're assembling is actually in compression, right? Okay, so the green spring lengthens, the yellow spring compresses. If we represent these two as a two spring. So this is what happens when you tighten a bolt. And so determining how much you tighten the bolt becomes a question of how much we want to tension the bolt, right? Because when we tighten it, we are stretching it. And so the question becomes how much stretching is acceptable to the bolt before it breaks. Because we want to maximize it. We want to maximize the clamping, right? And this is just a stiffness diagram of the bolt and the two plates. So let's say you are sandwiching two plates together. Okay? This is the stiffness of the joint, and this is the stiffness of the bolt. So as you tighten it, you go up this curve, and then eventually you're going to meet, this is your tightened position. And when you when you pull on the plate, this is the blue one now is no longer tightening, but as the assembly is under load, it's going to try to separate, right? So the separation or the compression or the separation will apply a load, and the capacity of this load will depend on how much you tighten it. So this is kind of a mathematical representation of what happens when you tighten a bolt and the bolted joint is under load. However, it's probably easier to imagine using this illustration. Okay, this is an illustration of what a bolted joint does actually to your assembled part. Think of a spring gauge, you know, where you have a hook here, and then you can pull on the spring. So you're going to pull on this spring with a preload of 1,000 pounds or 1,000 newtons, okay? And then we're going to put a block in between these and let go of the preload. What happens? The bolt, the block is being held in place, right? Because I pulled with 1,000 pounds, put the block here, and I let go. So the block is constantly being compressed with how much? 1,000 pounds, obviously. So it's always clamped, right? Now, let's say the block is trying to break free from the clamping. How much does he have to push in order to get out from the clamping? Yeah, 1,001, right? So if you apply a load on this block, not here, but let's say the block tries to open it with 700 pounds, then it's still clamping, right? The only way it falls out is when the external load on this block is 1,001. So therefore, this gives you an idea that the preload in a bolted assembly is the key to the strength of the bolted assembly. I know it might make just simple sense, but a lot of people don't realize that how much you tighten a bolt determines the load that you can hold. If you just tighten it slightly, I mean, visibly it seems like it's clamped, but it can break free easily because you're not tightened. So therefore, the question becomes, how much do we have to tighten the bolt? This is just a mathematical diagram that when you load it, the load will go into both the bolt and the joint itself. I'll skip that. Sometimes I felt every year I teach this, I'm skipping more and more slides, downgrading your knowledge. But we need to tighten the bolt correctly, right? And this is practically, you're going to use what is called a torque wrench. Who have used a torque wrench? Yeah, obviously. But a torque wrench is a tool that actually measures how much torque you have applied. It actually clicks